Welcome to The Situation. This episode of Local Genius covers the who, what, when, where, how, and why of situational and contextual variables and how they impact your project. Understanding what situational variables are and being able to analyze them is really important in the future success of your project or your organization. So we talk about in this episode what the variables are that you can look for, and then why do they matter. The first one that you want to look at is who. You need to understand the human factor, the relationships and personalities involved. That is everything from the relationships of the people you're working with on your team to interorganizational relationships. So if Lead Local is partnering with TMC, you should understand the relationship that TMC and Lead Local have so that you can leverage that relationship for the success of your project. Then what? Understanding the purpose of the project and the socio-political context that informs opinions about the associated goals and ideas is incredibly important. If you're executing a project that is potentially making other people angry, you need to understand why they're angry so that you can frame your message in ways that still promote what you're doing but don't get you involved in a lot of embroiled conflict. So understanding your purpose and what influence and impact that has on others is going to be important. The timing of your project is also important. So how you execute, maybe the time of year it is. Maybe it has to do when you're asking people for information. So for example, you wouldn't want to ask a CPA to help you during tax season because an accountant is busy, incredibly busy, from January to April, and then they're filing all of those late extensions. But maybe September, November, downtime. Also, the actual physical space and location of where you're executing your project makes a difference. Additionally, in the where you're executing, you have to consider culture. So for example, if you're executing a project at Google, how you do it and how the location and environment influences the outcome of the project is going to be different than if you are, say, executing a project at Wells Fargo. Very different organizational cultures, very different expectations. And this goes not just from organizational cultures, but to cultures and ethnicity, etc. Those ideas that inform how we act. So think about where you are, the actual physical space, the location, and what are the cultural expectations of that location and how those impact your project. You also want to think about the methodology. Understanding how you execute your project will affect the outcome. So if you think about if you were doing research, you could choose to do primary research, go out and collect the data on your own, or secondary research. Look at what other research people have collected and say, aha, I'll draw my inferences from that. So if you're collecting primary data, that's going to be a very different type of research and results that you'll get than reading other people's studies. And even within collecting that primary data, doing a focus group or an interview versus a survey, and how you maybe even how you execute that survey, whether it was electronic or paper, is going to change the outcome of your project and how you're able to pull information from that research. So everything from research down to actually executing a project plan goes into the how. And so think about these things and these situational variables because it does make a difference in how you execute. So why do you want to consider all of these? Because they influence your outcome. Why not? If you don't consider these, you run a higher risk of jeopardizing your project and making it less successful because you haven't thought through all of the variables that will impact it. So, think about the who, what, when, where, how, and why all of those are important before you embark on a project. It doesn't take very long. And remember, stitching time saves 9. A little bit of effort now makes you look better down the road and saves you some time. Good luck!